some live video here, something I haven't done for a couple months since I did a walkthrough of Gettysburg maps. I am currently playing None But Heroes, which is the line of battle treatment of the Battle of Antietam. I am just starting the 7:45 a.m. turn. And if you're familiar with the battle, although all the names are upside down on the map, but you can see here, this is Miller's cornfield, the famous bloody cornfield from Antietam. You can see right now the Union currently has possession of it. I started out with one of the options you can do is you can have Hooker have immediately accepted orders at the start of the game, which allows him to take whatever orders you want to write out and have those automatically accepted. And if you do that, then you're allowed to also give 12th Corps immediately accepted orders when they arrive at I forget when it is, like 6:30 or 6:45 turn. You can see this is 12th Corps over here. They've started filtering onto the map. There's more of them down here coming in along the Smoketown Road. So I opted to do that just because I think it's the best way for the Union if you want to focus on an attack plan that focuses down the Hagerstown Pike, which is this white line along here. It's the easiest way to do that. I'm not even sure if you didn't do the immediately accepted Hooker orders, what you'd be able to do instead of that, because I know, like, if you wanted to give Burnside earlier orders or something, I'm not sure how that works, because McClellan can't give any orders at all until 7:15. So all of these units over on the east side of the Antietam Creek, and this is like the 2nd Corps and 5th Corps, and I don't know if they're all on the map. Those full corps are on the map or not. All those units over there are subject to certain restrictions, or at least the overall army is subject to certain restrictions, in that you can't have a certain number of divisions across the east side or across the Antietam Creek prior to a certain time. And this is all in the game specific rules, but I don't remember what the specific restrictions are. It's like 5 or 6. You have to keep 5 or 6 divisions over on the east side of the creek with McClellan, and then keep a corps in reserve. The whole concept here is that really, if the entire Army of the Potomac were completely unleashed for this, they could basically smash the Confederates to pieces, who were kind of caught unprepared and under strength and scattered by McClellan's army, and they could end up being destroyed piecemeal or kind of all at once. And the reason Antietam wasn't a larger Union victory than it could have been was because McClellan, being McClellan, attacked in an extreme piecemeal fashion, just sector by sector of the battlefield, and let the Confederates essentially just rush guys to whatever corner of the battlefield they needed, as these slow plotting attacks came in from the Union. Really, the hardest fighting came in the earliest part of the battle, which was this cornfield portion here, when the 1st Corps and the 12th Corps smashed into Jackson's position near the West Woods, which are down here. In this case, one thing I wanted to do with Hooker's corps, and in this case I used the 1st Division under Doubleday, who's up here now. The Confederates initially had a position here on Nicodemus Hill. They had artillery that kind of takes pot shots at the Union troops that are massing for the attack on the cornfield. I didn't want to leave Nicodemus Hill in the possession of the Confederates, so one of the things that I did with Hooker's orders, when I took his sort of free orders action, was to give suborders, or whatever you call them, subordinate orders, to the 1st Division to clear off Nicodemus Hill and then rejoin the attack with the rest of Hooker's corps on the cornfield. And their orders are to take, I think it's right here, the Dunker Church near the West Woods, to seize control of this area. And so the 1st Division, they took some pretty heavy losses from the artillery that was up here, which unloaded canister right in their faces coming up the hill. But one of the things they were able to do was to hit, and I don't think it was Stewart's HQ. It may have been Fitz Lee's HQ. There was an HQ that was set up just behind the hill, and my Union troops that charged over the hill ended up hitting that HQ, which caused a skedaddle. And that included, because initially in the early part of the game, there's in the standing orders in the scenario, and this is the full battle scenario I'm playing. The standing orders in the scenario were for Early's division or brigade. I've kind of forgotten. I think it's a division. The Confederate order of battle is pretty weird because they don't have traditional corps at this point. They have essentially everybody's kind of split up into divisions and then loosely organized. So in this case, like Jackson and Longstreet, in addition to Lee, can give orders, can write orders. Usually only Army commanders can write orders, but for the Confederates, you've got your basically what would be corps. But regardless, Early was over here with his orders, but he was subordinate to Fitz Lee, who was the headquarters that got skedaddled. And so the whole Confederate position here in Nicodemus Hill collapsed all the way back here to whatever this is, some ridge, Hauser's Ridge maybe. Yeah, Hauser's Ridge. Now you can see McLaws, this is his division, coming up. Their orders are to move to the vicinity of 1220, somewhere there, and then advance through the Poffenberger farm and smash into the Union flank towards the North Woods. That may be fairly successful. The Union is kind of out of position here. I've got some cannon over here and my sharpshooters on Nicodemus Hill. Got a brigade here, got the Iron Brigade here in the West Woods, with the rest of 1st Division kind of swinging around here, and there's really not a whole lot here. Like, this is kind of all that's left of Jackson's command here, which isn't looking good, but that's because these guys over here, Early's guys, are awaiting more orders, which they should have at 8 a.m. or so. They should likely accept those orders to join in McLaws' attack and pushing the Union back on this the right flank of the Union position here. McLaws he's on his way. McLaws himself, as you can see, he's all by himself out here. He was under the McLaws, the Sandman rule. There's this little counter you put on him. Historically, McLaws had fallen asleep in a field, and when his division got orders, they couldn't find him. He was hidden in this tall grass, and so his division took off without him, and he didn't show up until later. Yeah, the Sandman counter, just as a reminder. So every turn after his division accepts orders, you have to roll on this Sandman for the Sandman counter. On a 5 or 6, he wakes up and then can go join his corps or his division. So once these guys, they're still marching up, but once they start to form an attack here, then they'll have McLaws and what's left of Early's division, which is here, these two stacks here and here. The rest of this is just artillery. Once those guys get, um, once McLaws gets up there, this will be a pretty powerful attack to punch back at the Union with. Uh, their their drawback will be the fact that the Union has some pretty good artillery, and lots of it, because I don't have a whole lot to do with the Union artillery while they're attacking. Across the cornfield, if you see here in the cornfield, you can see these red dashed lines. These are crest lines. So if you're at even terrain, so say this cannon firing from here to say a hex just on the other side of this crest line, that's blocked. This crest line for line of sight purposes raises the elevation of a hex by one. Um, so the crests, you kind of have to work around them in terms of your line of sight, particularly for artillery. So the Union artillery, which had been, back here near the Poffenberger farm at the start, was kind of on these hills, and I moved it all up as the attack proved pretty successful against the Confederates in the initial assault of the cornfield. And you can see the Confederates have been pushed back pretty badly, and this is actually a very, very weak position here, so that the Union could push deep into the West Woods and threaten the Dunker Church. That's not going to be too much of a threat with this big hammer blow from the Confederates potentially coming up on this side. And then over here on the left of the Union position, where the 12th Corps had orders to attack down the Smokehouse Road towards the Dunker Church to assist the 1st Corps. The Confederates are already punching back. Jackson issued orders to Hood to have his division seize the West Woods and then the cornfield. And then Trimble also had orders given from Jackson to assist in that taking of the West Woods and Miller's cornfield. And so they have, the Texas Brigade here has in force just charged right into the 12th Corps position. And unfortunately, these 12th Corps units, there's a lot of green. You see these guys with the green border here. These 12th Corps units with the green border, green troops do not get an opening volley in any circumstances. So when you charge them, that's just like, it's a free charge. You're not going to take any damage from charging those guys. And so A quality units like the Texas Brigade they're going to make their closing rolls on charges regardless. You have to roll a 1 to fail. Otherwise, it's going to be an auto success. And if they've got, a leader like Wofford here who's going to be a +1, they can't fail their charge rolls. So essentially, A units charging into green units is just free charges for the Confederates. And so they're just pushing the Union troops back here. I need to get my non-green 12th Corps units up there to shore up the Union left here. Otherwise, it's just going to cave in by default from the Confederate assault. So that's going to take some work. And down here, you can see Williams. These guys were routed. Williams was able to rally them. These were some of my only non-green units, and they got hit by a charge. An insta route for them. So in terms of losses, you can look over here. That's a lot more Confederate losses than Union losses so far. So it was actually, it started off fairly disastrously for the Confederates, and has now turned into a little more stabilized. Again, this is very dangerous, but the Union's not going to be able to exploit this weakness here too much if they push all these guys back. The real danger would be if they get to Jackson's headquarters here and cause a skedaddle. That's what the Confederates need to avoid, and that is one thing that could just derail all of these assaults over here, because all these units are part of Jackson's HQ or report to Jackson. So if they get a skedaddle, it's gonna send them all flying. So that's the only real chance that the Union has to make it work. So otherwise, it's kind of at parity at the moment. The Confederates got a lot of good rolls. I was getting ready, massing fresh troops up here to do another push from the cornfield, and Confederate fire into the advanced units there got some really good rolls, or really bad rolls in the case of the Union, in terms of morale checks. And so that's why you've got these Shaken and DG guys back here. They were all part of this advanced line that got pushed back. So it's looking, it's still looking pretty good for the Union, but it's definitely not kind of the romp that they started with. Things have settled down into more equilibrium, and they are definitely in danger of getting their left flank turned, unless they can get these guys up here and try and stabilize it. But stopping charges from these A-ranked Texas Brigade is no easy feat. What they can hope for is that charges are very heavy on leader casualties. Your leaders basically make you auto-succeed with a charge attempt or your closing rolls, and they give you huge bonuses on the defender's morale checks. But you have with an opening volley, and that's where the green units are a problem, because the green units can't kill your leaders on a charge. Your leaders will be unable to be hurt by charging green units. But if they're charging non-green units, it's very, very dangerous. These guys can be killed much more easily when charging than they can when simply firing, or taking casualties through fire as opposed to charges. So that's where we stand at the 7:45 turn. I thought I'd just jump on and do a little Facebook Live. I haven't done that in a while, and just go over what I'm playing at the moment. I've got other stuff that I'm also working on. I may do a few more turns of this and then jump over on my other table over there. I've got Chandragupta from Great Battles of History, and that is I'm doing simple Great Battles of History for that, so I may bang out a couple of turns of that tonight too, while I'm off for New Year's. But anyway, there it is. Thanks for watching.